Few battles on the Eastern Front in World War II are remembered by people in the West. Ask anyone about the battles around Kharkov or the perfect breakthrough of Operation Migration and you will unlikely to get the answer. But the mention Stalingrad and most people will know that a titanic battle happened there, even if they couldn't tell you where it is. Stalingrad is probably best remembered as the place where the Nazi expansion into Europe came up against a Russian heroic defense. For the Russian people, it is one of their proudest episodes, one of their best military operations of the war. By the winter of 1941, the Germans had been victorious in every theater of war. They had taken Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, Holland, and France in a series of quick campaigns that stunned the world. Britain was the next, but it was only bombed from the air. Next, the Nazis turned east, taking Yugoslavia and Greece, and parts of North Africa. Hitler's main aim had always been to take Russia. The Germans began their war on Russia in June 1941. Initially, the invasion of Russia went well for the Germans. Tanks groove deep into Russian defenses, encircling great pockets of Russian units. These were then squeezed to destruction. But the German plan stalled at the gates of Moscow and Leningrad as winter began. Russian counterattack during the winter tested the Germans to their limits. The German plan for 1942 was to continue the push southeast to the rich oil fields of the Caucasus. The plan failed because of the ideology. Northeast of the Caucasus was the city of Stalingrad. Military it was useful to take. It could be used to start attacks into the Siberian industrial heartland. But its main prize was that it had the name of Hitler's enemy, Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviets. The open plains of Russia were good country for the mobile German tanks supported by air attacks. Blitzkrieg, leisurely lightning war. However, the block by block, house by house and room by room fighting that happened in the city of Stalingrad didn't suit the German method of war. The heroic Russian defense made the Germans pay for every yard of the ground, and the Germans were shocked by the ferocity of Russian defense. Summer turned to autumn and the battle became a matter of survival. Losses on both sides were huge. By the middle of September, Hitler had a whole army in Stalingrad. Soviet High Command under Marshal Georgy Zhukov had realized the opportunity. With Stalingrad as the bait, they planned to tempt a large German force into the Jane trap. On either side of the German forces in Stalingrad were Germany's allies, the Romanians and Italians. Military weaker, these units had been left to defend hundreds of miles of quieter parts of the massive front. Zhukov built up a big reserve facing these weaker units on the flanks of Stalingrad. He was waiting for the winter snow that would slow German tank movement and leave German aircraft grounded, all to Russian advantage. Finally, on the 21st of September, the Russian counterattack started. The Romanian and Italian lines collapsed. Now it was the Germans' turn to learn what it was like to be encircled. Within days, Stalingrad was isolated from the rest of the German army. Like an expert boxer, Zhukov had timed his blows to perfection. A breakout was still possible for the Germans trapped in Stalingrad, but Hitler's pride would not allow it. Russian troops now began to squeeze the German pocket, chasing the Nazi deeper into the city and into a smaller area. In the city, German ammunition, food and medicine were in short supply. Hitler ordered the Sixth Army to fight on, indifferent to the suffering of his men. On January 31st, 1943, the German Sixth Army surrendered to Russians. Almost 65,000 Germans were prisoners. It was the first serious defeat the Germans had suffered in the war, and it was the start of Russian military ability to assert itself. They had outfought, outsmarted, and defeated the German Superman. Stalingrad was a ruin, but now people in the West understood the bravery and military power of Russia. In 1943, the Germans were only able to make small attacks, not the big advances of 1940 and 1941. Meanwhile, the Russians were continuing to develop their arms and in 1944 to 1945 would crush the Germans. By April 1945, the Russians were in Berlin knocking on the door of Hitler's bunker and raising their flag on the hammer and sickle where the swastika had been.